association with Hetic Fittings. Make your furniture work beautifully. ऑफर पे ऑफर सिर्फ कल्याण ज्वेलर्स में.
China continues to coerce Taiwan. Beijing's military drills continue even on Monday. Taiwan plans own drills to checkmate China. China also steps up military exercises both in Tibet and in Xinjiang. Dragon breathes fire on multiple fronts. That's our top focus on India First. Taiwan, of course, has planned its own military drills in response to China's continuing military coercion and maneuvers around Taiwan. The armed forces in Taiwan plan a counter-invasion exercise to counter the threat from air, sea and land. But what is the Dragon's game plan with exercises both around Taiwan and also exercises in Tibet and in Xinjiang? Is this just for the Chinese President Xi Jinping to appear strong ahead of his re-election in October-November? Or is China setting a new normal through coercion along both borders? I'm Gaurav Sawant, two of the most authoritative voices on China. Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma and Professor Brahma Chilani join me on India First. But as always, let's get started with the headlines. Bulldozers flatten encroachments at Shrikant Tyagi's residence in Noida after his video abusing a woman went viral. Tyagi is still absconding. Yogi government suspends 6 police officials in Noida. The JDU-BJP alliance in Bihar is in trouble. Nitish Kumar's JDU may snap ties with BJP and once again join hands with Lalu's RJD. Decision likely in the next 48 hours. Kapil Sibal slams the Supreme Court, says he has no hope or expectation from higher judiciary. Bar Association and the BJP hit out, asked, will the Supreme Court invoke contempt proceedings? Shiv Sena MP Sanjay Raut remanded to 14 days in custody in the Partha Chatterjee land scam case to be in jail till the 22nd of August. Enforcement Directorate heat on his wife Varsha's bank transactions. India strikes gold in badminton at the Commonwealth Games at Birmingham. PV Sindhu, Lakshya Sen, Rani Reddy and Chirag win top honours. We are getting the first reaction of US President Joe Biden to Chinese provocation around Taiwan after US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to the island nation. Asked if he was worried about China's behavior around Taiwan, Joe Biden said, I am not worried but concerned they are moving as much as they are. He then went on to say, and I quote, I don't think they are going to do anything more, unquote. So in US assessment, China will continue to coerce, bully, but not attack Taiwan. The question is only now or even in the years ahead. Before I get you more on the story, let's quickly listen in to the US President, Joe Biden.
Mr. President, how worried are you about the situation in Taiwan? Because China is They're kind of keeping a bit of a grip around the whole island now.
I'm not worried, but I'm concerned that they're moving as much as they are. But I don't think they're going to do anything more.
Do you think it was a wise move of the speaker to go to Taiwan?
That was her decision.
And China has stepped up its military drills around Taiwan, staging fresh exercises and extending the schedule of its war games. The People's Liberation Army, or the Chinese Army, continues to carry out joint exercises in the water and airspace around the island nation Taiwan, mainly focusing on joint anti-submarine warfare and air-to-air and air-to-sea, air-to-ground assault operations. China says the United States must be held accountable and be made to bear consequences of US Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit. There is a major escalation as far as China's coercive tactics are concerned, but the assessment is this is all that China will do. The question remains, for how long? For how many more days will China continue to carry out these exercises blockading Taiwan? Is China's aim to strangle Taiwan slowly, to push the envelope, to push a new normal in coercion? Because Taiwan has planned its own military drills in response to China's continuing military coercion all along the island nation's borders. China's live-fire military drills were for 4 days, but Chinese fighter jets, warships and unmanned aerial vehicles continue to operate close to and at times breaching Taiwan's red lines. China's joint air and land exercises today included 39 PLA fighter jets and 13 warships. Both Taiwan and the United States are watching these drills very closely. The question remains, will the United States act in defense of Taiwan? China's coercive military drills around Taiwan seas are to continue even after the end of the 4-day live-fire exercises initially announced. China fired 11 short-range ballistic missiles, including over Taiwan's airspace, in the past 4 days. Chinese fighter jets, including Su-30 air superiority fighters and J-16 multi-role combat jets, flew multiple sorties, violating the median line between mainland China and Taiwan in the Taiwan Straits. Taipei 2 scrambled its F-16s and Mirage 2000 fighter jets to send across a message they are not wilting under Beijing's pressure. China on Monday announced more military drills in the seas and air around Taiwan. Apart from 14 Chinese Navy warships and 66 fighter jets, multiple drones are a part of the drills, including surrounding Taiwan from different sides. Drills around Taiwan are to test tactics and systems under information-based conditions. The aim is to improve capabilities to destroy crucial island targets with precision strikes, Xinhua quoted a Chinese Air Force official on the war drills.
During the drill, we followed orders to carry out mission, further familiarizing ourselves with the battlefield environment, verifying our tactical methods, focusing on testing the collaborative operations, ground assault, and precision strike capabilities.
Chinese drones are flying around Taiwan to monitor Taipei's response to the Chinese drills. China is carefully studying the response of the self-governed island armed forces to further refine Chinese tactics. Some analysts argue China is trying to shrink the timeline for taking over Taiwan by force from the initial plan of around 2040 to forcible occupation in the next 18 to 24 months. Some analysts believe the current military exercises are also to check the response of the United States and Japan. A muted response will further embolden Chinese President Xi Jinping, who's looking at re-election to remain president for life, after the People's Congress in October or November 2022.
In the operations this time, we, with the support of the Joint Combat System, focused efforts on unclogging the direct link from target discovery to the terminal shooter with the achievement of desired results. We also systematically examined our tactics for offensive campaigns, honed and improved our capability of precise strike and destroyed the vital targets on the island so as to ensure our Air Force's efficiency, accuracy and intensity.
Taipei is clearly not buckling under pressure. Taiwan has launched its own fighter jets, warships, and readied its missile batteries to protect its territory. Taiwan has made it clear it is not looking for war, but will not shy away from defending their independence. Bureau Report, India Today. So China is not only coercing Taiwan, but there are multiple red flags that are up even in Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh, given China's heightened activities in the recent years. Red flag number 1, China is conducting multiple military drills in Tibet and in Xinjiang. Red flag number 2, Chinese fighter jets flying closer to the line of actual control, not respecting that 10-kilometer confidence building measure. Red flag number 3, China plans an additional road, G695, close to the LAC, and this apparently will be very close to Hot Spring, Gogra and Depsang. Red flag number 4, China is building dual-use villages along the Arunachal and Bhutan borders. Red flag number 5, China's strengthening defenses opposite Ladakh. And let's talk about these multiple red flags and the situation along the China-Taiwan border, the situation in the Taiwan Straits. Let me quickly bring in our guests into this conversation, Professor Brahmachalani and Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, two of the finest voices on the subject, join me on the show. General, your appreciation of the situation right now. China opening two fronts, never advisable, but why is China doing so?
Thank you for inviting me, Gaurav. Firstly, we must place both these issues, that is the issue regarding Xinjiang and Tibet, and also Taiwan, into separate baskets. They have separate motivations, separate timelines, separate methodology of doing things. Now, Taiwan is an issue which is, of course, there is a nationalistic fervor in China. There was strong criticism of the CCP and the government by the people of China regarding allowing Nancy Pelosi to land across in this place. And it has been reported worldwide. So there's an apparent desire on the Chinese government to actually respond back into good measure. This is a very difficult time for Chinese polity, because there is also the 20th Party Congress right around the corner. So then all this is on the issues of the nationalistic issues that are happening inside China. They have to respond back. Otherwise, the criticism was becoming unbearable.
No, but then are we looking at conflict? Are we looking at war? I'll come to what's happening along the LAC in just a moment. But Professor Brahmachalani, US President says, I'm not worried. China's done all it can do. It's not going to do more. Is US sleepwalking into a Chinese attack on Taiwan?
Probably, because this kind of inaction, muted response, can only encourage and embolden Xi Jinping. Here is Xi Jinping stepping up coercive pressure on Taiwan, and the Americans are only watching. We have to be clear that, when Xi Jinping moves on Taiwan, it won't be like Putin invading Ukraine. That's not the Chinese style. The Chinese style has been to incrementally commit aggression, incrementally. They did that in the South China Sea and redrew the borders of South China Sea. They're doing that in the Himalayas step by step. So when they start their aggression against Taiwan, it'll be a step-by-step squeeze of Taiwan. And the drills that we have seen in recent days are a rehearsal of what a full-fledged assault and squeeze of Taiwan would look like. Here, we should not forget that military drills of any kind are so significant and so ominous. When the Chinese grabbed some territories in Ladakh in April 2020, they used an exercise not very far from Ladakh
Yes.
as a ruse. They were conducting an exercise and then they sent thousands of soldiers from their exercise to commit aggression against India in Ladakh. So we have seen a pattern where exercises become vanguard of aggression against neighboring countries.
And
So
with
what we
China,
are
there
seeing
is a
against
system.
Taiwan,
Yes. Go on, sir.
what we are seeing against Taiwan has grave implications for India. Imagine a scenario in which Taiwan falls to China.
I'll come to the scenario
China
for
will
India in
seek
just a
to-
moment. No, I want to, for the moment, stay on what's happening in Taiwan. Because, General Sharma, US aircraft carrier Ronald Reagan, super carrier battle group is in South China Sea. Now, is Beijing daring Joe Biden? Is Xi Jinping emboldened by what the US did or didn't do in Ukraine?
So, see, there is a difference between Ukraine and the land borders between Ukraine and Russia and the sea frontier, which is 150 odd kilometers. So, to actually get a flotilla ready and amphibious landing ready across, and no amphibious landing has been carried out in the world after the Korean War. Incheon last landing in 50s. So it's a very difficult operation to capture the island. It's a very major task. They have the flotilla, they have the fishing vessels, and they'll collect all this. But to collect all this and get them across on the seashore and then plan it across like a Normandy, like an Incheon, is not simple a proposition altogether. There is great amount of coercion they is doing. They are now shifting across to Yellow Sea and to Bohai Sea. So they will spread it across for next 1 month. But the fact is, it is largely coercion and they attempt to capture, because war has got its own way to move across. So what happens when actually start an invasion across there, it can end up any way. It can also end up wrongly. And that this is not the time for the President of China to get involved into something that may not go in his favor.
This is exactly what was said, Professor Brahmachalani, before Russian forces moved into Ukraine, that there will be no war, Russian forces will not go in, and on 24th of February they did. This war has been on for the past 5 months, and all that America did was either give intelligence inputs and of course weapons and systems, but Ukraine is suffering. Is Taiwan sailing in the same boat as Ukraine, Professor Brahmachalani? Is China watching what America will do and what America has done or not done in these many days?
Well, in a few days, it'll be the first anniversary of Biden's surrender of Afghanistan to the Taliban, to terrorists. And that surrender has greatly encouraged Russian and Chinese aggression. For example, just weeks after the fall of Kabul, China staged a record number of air intrusions into Taiwan's air defense identification zone.
Yes.
And within 3 months of the fall of Kabul, Russia began massing forces along the borders of Ukraine. So that debacle in Afghanistan presented the US as a declining power. And that has had a huge geopolitical fallout. But I think coming to Taiwan's strategy, the best description of what's happening was provided by the White House 4 days ago, when they said that China is pursuing a quote-unquote boil the frog strategy against Taiwan. Boil the frog.
Yep.
So you put the frog in water, you slowly raise the temperature gradually. Initially, the frog thinks that this temperature is quite comforting before the frog gets completely fried. So by regularizing crossings of the median line in the Taiwan Strait, by stepping up coercive pressures, and by creating a different status quo, China is already committing aggression against Taiwan.
And yet the
And
US hasn't reacted, or is the US reaction disappointing? But General Sharma, since we are short on time, I want to now for a moment shift focus to the LAC. India enjoyed an advantage over China in terms of our Air Force, altitude, terrain, fighter flying. Now China has also built its new runways and blast pens and longer runways. Is this the reason why it's flying closer to the LAC?
So it's not this alone. There is a dramatic shift into the entire situation that has been in Tibet and also in Xinjiang. The blast pens are one part. The runways have been extended. There has been habitat built for 120,000 people troops to stay. So there's about 100,000 extra troops to stay. Accommodation has been built. And this road that you refer to, G695, starts from close to Mazar, which is north of Karakoram Pass, goes all along the LAC, much closer than the 219 is. So if you take the entire culture of change, then of course our hackles must be raised. So this is a systemic change being happening across there. Now the exercises they do every year, but as the Professor Brahma has already rightly said, but last year, 2 years also, they were doing similar exercises. Yes. And they certainly moved the exercises and came closer to the LAC and did all what they did in April 2020. So now, of course, the exercise implied, now we have forces located there. We would be actually in some kind of alert. The exercises are on. But to say that there is an advantage that the Chinese have obtained in 2 years by creating the infrastructure, especially for the plan to move aircraft closer in and fly closer into the borders without refueling as it is likely seemed. So then there is a dramatic shift into the whole threat pattern that emanates across in the line of action.
Professor Chilani, you agree that the threat has increased even in Ladakh, but the question would remain, is China thinking of opening multiple fronts, Taiwan and Tibet, or does China want to keep both India and Taiwan on the edge so that China remains unchallenged in the Indian Ocean region? Is that Beijing's tactics?
You're right. China's ambition is to be the dominant power in Asia. If it's not the dominant power in Asia, it cannot be a world power. So preventing any challenger in Asia is at the center of China's Asia strategy. But I think one has to also look at this larger picture, just the way China has gradually regularized its coercive pressure on Taiwan since 2020. That has not happened now. Nancy Pelosi's was just a pretext for upping the ante. But since 2020, China has been regularizing its coercive pressure on Taiwan. And in the same period, China has sought to normalize its hostile pressure on India. So we are seeing a parallel between what they're doing against Taiwan and what they're doing against India. Now, as I was mentioning earlier, that in a scenario where China is able to annex Taiwan, then it'll seek to do a Taiwan against India. The reason being that China claims large chunks of Indian territory as part of China, including Arunachal Pradesh, which is almost 3 times larger than Taiwan. Yes. So if Taiwan falls, you can be sure that then the pressure on India, the adverse pressure on India, would increase tremendously.
General Sharma,
that's why India should contribute its bit to keeping Taiwan free.
In fact, General Sharma, is that also your appreciation? There'll be a threat. There's a threat to Taiwan. There's a threat to Arunachal Pradesh. There's a threat to Bhutan, Nepal, Ladakh, all across. China's mounting pressure, and systematically the frog is on slow boil. The world thinks it's okay, just a little more. But in the past couple of years, China's done a lot more coercion.
So it has done it. There is no denying the fact that there has been revanchism, there is expansionism, which has been evident across.
We don't tend to look at the bigger picture. We look at developments day to day and forget the larger picture.
And let's look at the bigger picture.
This is the mistake we made.
Absolutely. Professor Chilani, I want to quickly bring in General Sharma for his last comment. General Sharma, this new road, G295, that will connect Tibet with Xinjiang, he already has G219, China already has G219. Why would he build a G695 closer to Depsang, Galwan and Pengong So, as some have argued?
So it is a great threatening move that's been carried out. There are no populated areas. He's not connecting any kind of these habitations across there. So this has got only one content and one value. That is, it's a lateral being built across the very close to the line of actual control. It's a threatening posture. I would also state that he has to convert the pontoon bridge which he's got across the Pagong Tso Lake into an RCC bridge in times to come as part of this road. The road, when it comes up, starts from north of Karakoram, goes right across to Arunachal Pradesh. It will be an intensely threatening move to be done. It can't be done in one day. It may take 5 years, 10 years.
Absolutely, and that is why China is doing it. And look at the other steps, the villages that are being built, the 5G network in border areas, all of this together points to a much bigger and a very dangerous picture. Professor Brahmachalani and General Sharma, as always, many thanks for joining me. I've run out of time on this part of the show, but perhaps it's time for democracies to put their heads together and think how they can checkmate an expansionist country like China. Many thanks for watching. A quick break. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.
Armed with facts, she takes the news by its horns.
Do you think the future of these students are not hampered?
Fierce, bold and direct, setting the tone for the biggest stories from every corner and every angle. Expect nothing but the unfiltered truth.
News first, niceties later. Watch me, Nabila Jamal, on India Today.
You know Kim Tae-hyung, aka V of pop group BTS fame? Well, he's simultaneously 26, 27 and 28 years old. Confused? How old were you when you were born? 0? 1? In South Korea, you'd be 1 year old. Let's clear the air about this. South Korea has a unique way of calculating age. When a baby is born, it's considered a year old. And as the year changes on January 1st, the child gains a year. So no special birthdays. South Koreans count age based on their birth year and not days. A child born in December will already be 2 by January. But the president-elect Yoon Suk-yeol wants to do away with this traditional system. Because of persistent confusion and unnecessary social and economic costs, the incoming administration is looking to standardize age calculation. This was observed especially when health authorities use the international age and Korean ages interchangeably to set guidelines for COVID-19. This will also help South Korea get in line with the rest of the world. The age conundrum doesn't end here. South Korea also counts age in an international way. That means it counts age in 3 ways. For legal and administrative purposes, the country's been using the international counting system since 1962. In another way, babies are born at 0 and gain a year on New Year's. This method is mainly used to define the legal age for areas of law that affect a significant percentage of the population, including military service conscription. And the third is the Korean age system, where everyone is already a year old at birth and become older on New Year's Day regardless of the birth date. That's how Kim Tae-hyung from BTS fame is simultaneously 26, 27 and 28 years old, as he was born on 30th December 1995. There are multiple problems that arise with age discrepancies. It's led to wage disputes that have been dragged to the Supreme Court and ruled that workers should consider their international age for work. There have also been cases of parents trying to cheat the birth registration system because of worries that their children born in December will be at a disadvantage at school as a result later in life. Efforts were made in 2019 and 2021 to change the law. 2 lawmakers proposed legislation to adhere to the international age, but experts are divided on what the new measure means for Korean society, and the bills were not signed into law.
Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now.